Most of the public narrative around Bitcoin these days has to do with industry adoption and major investors. In other words, how crypto can be used to make big money and major institutions even bigger. Still, there are some individuals who are dedicated to making Bitcoin more accessible to those who may need it the most, the world's most impoverished and underbanked individuals, those who don't have access to the formal global economy. Recently, finance magnates spoke to Paxful co-founder Ray Youssef. A proud Bitcoin maximalist, Ray believes that Bitcoin is the key to empowering some of the world's most financially alienated populations. He told us about his fascinating journey across what could be described as several lifetimes, from an overnight startup success to homeless on the streets of Manhattan to co-founder and CEO of Paxful. Okay, so Ray, can you just start by telling us a little bit about yourself, your life and your journey to creating Paxful?
Yeah, well, I went to Baruch High School, which is like a city college in New York, which is used to be known as, it's still known as like a Harvard for the poor, because a lot of poor Jewish boys would go there, and because they couldn't afford to go anywhere else. And
Mm.
now they're doing all right. They're CEOs, major corporations. So Baruch is a great place. It's known for business and accounting, but me and one other guy made history the year I graduated, which I thought was hilarious. But I always valued liberal arts education. So, I just didn't want. I couldn't imagine myself, sitting there and being an accountant. And I didn't have any tech skills either. I got my first. Well, at the time, I did have some tech skills, and before I graduated, I was already doing web design. I got my first computer when I was 19. It's very old, I guess.
Wow.
But yeah. So I started my first venture while I was working for this startup called Yada Yada. They were trying to do Palm Pilot. They were using Palm Pilots and trying to do smartphones with Palm Pilots, like super ahead of their time. They didn't make it because they were too far ahead. And my first startup idea was trying to do Groupon with text messages that no one in America even knew what text messages were at the time. And I remember getting kicked out of bars in New York City on the Lower East Side. People thought I was some kind of degenerate. It didn't work. Pivoted to ringtones. Yeah, I heard this dude with a Mission Impossible ringtone walking down, I think, 34th Street. I was like, what the? Oh, man, I had to get that. And I did some research. 10 hours later, scammed a couple times. I still didn't have my Mission Impossible ringtone.
No.
It was a nightmare. And I found this one forum about cell phones, and the biggest thread, 10,000 replies, was just about ringtones, where people were trading ringtones as these little, it was this monophonic thing, and they were exchanged on the Nokia phones with a proprietary format called RTTTL codes, which are basically like notes. You had to type in the notes themselves. So I was like, wow, and I finally found the Mission Impossible ringtone. I had to enter it in manually, note by note on my
That's
phone.
amazing.
And it worked. And I was like, man, this is how you get a ringtone? There must be a better way. So I built a whole website around making that easier for people, where it could just be sent with SMS text messages, and people could just, boom, it would be sent right to your phone. You get it. And I had people add the ringtones themselves. And before you knew it, people were calling it the Tower Records of ringtones. It had like a million ringtones on there. And then I couldn't support the growth, so I just started charging people. They uploaded them for free, and I charged them $2.50 to download them. It looked just like iTunes does now, with the left nav bar and all that. This was like 5 years before iTunes. And I remember the first month I did that, I made like $23. Second month I made like $123, and like third month I think I made 6,000. Then after that, it was literally like over $1 million a year in revenue, like within like 6 months, and then it just kept growing astronomically. Then I had to hire a whole bunch of lawyers, because this was right when Napster went down, and everyone was scared. People think if in crypto now, people are scared of regulation, but back then everyone was like deathly afraid of being sued by the music companies. But I had to deal with worse than the music companies. I had to deal with worse than the record labels. I had to deal with the music publishers, who were like really bad, because like 50 cents in the club. I mean, I made so much off that one song. It has 5 owners, and one of the guys owns less than like 1% or something. And he came after us for as little less than 1%, and he could, by American law, he can sue for $184,000 per infringement. Yeah, Yeah, so yeah, divorce and copyright law are the only things you can get money for in America. So it's a whole industry of bottom feeders, and I had to pay these guys off. It was a nightmare. And I remember I finally got a big meeting together. It was like the first one ever with all these music publishers. And I was so proud of myself. I was like, oh yeah, man, look what I did, guys. This doesn't cut into your existing business at all. And man, I'm getting $2.50. I'll give you guys like 80% of that, and like this is just like the coolest thing ever. Like, look, it's a whole new revenue stream for you. You don't have to do anything. And they were like, I still remember their response. They were just looking at me, stone faced. And one guy gets up and he's like, we didn't even bother getting up. Actually, he was just like, well, okay, whatever, but we want to get paid every single time the ringtone goes off. That's how our business works.
What?
Yeah, it's not even technically possible to do that now.
Yeah.
This guy was asking me this like 11 years ago, and I was like, "Are you kidding me?" I had to deal with this crap for like 5 years, and it was rough. I was like a young kid, built this whole thing up on myself. Anyway, I deal with a lot of challenges, and finally, I was out of that business. I bought my mother a brownstone, because I was literally thrown to the wolves, like the worst of the worst, like the music industry. And I just wanted to get away, so I went on kind of hiatus. So I did like boxing and mixed martial arts and traveled the world with a backpack for a couple of years, just being a basically wandering gypsy and kind of bumming around, just trying to find myself. Mm-hmm. And then my mom had a divorce, so I had to buy her another house. She lost the house.
Oh,
so
no.
I was like, all right, let me get back. Yeah, so let me get back to work. I said, it's time to get myself back to work. So I taught myself some new programming languages, jumped back in. 11 startups in a row, all failed. So
11?
11, yeah. So my first was super successful. And I had a second one right at the same time, which was also very successful. It was actually a social media startup called Fun High. And it was at the time when Friendster was really popular. MySpace was really popular. And we were competing with them, getting more press than them. And we were the first ones to do virtual gifts, because I wanted to prove basically that you can make money with something other than advertising, which is a challenge for me. I felt like a hot shot, because I figured out, got such a good product market fit for ringtones. And back then there were no buzzwords like product market fit or any startup scene. If you said you were an entrepreneur, that just meant loser with no job. So anyway, I got that to work, but I just proved the virtual whole thing was from that startup, which I might bring back with a friend actually as an app, an interest based. Anyway, I might bring that back. But so my first 2 startups were successful, and then I had 11 failures in a row. Wow. That was rough. I'm a young man in his prime, just going through my life savings, trying to make all these things work, and 11 in a row, 7 years of not living it up, Rachel. There was no girlfriend, there was no fun, there were no Lamborghinis or anything like that. There was just me grinding it out and trying to I did it. I had my first 2 were super successful, and now I can't score at all. What's going on?
I'm
anyway,
amazed
I learned
at your
a lot.
persistence.
So many different startups. Yeah, I learned a lot. And then one day I met this dude. It's my first Bitcoin meetup I went to. I was in this grimy little room on the second floor of this crummy little real estate place. And the organizer introduced me to this guy. The first guy I met, his name was Artur. He was from a place called Estonia. I had no idea where that place was. Mm. And he introduced me and him because we were the only 2 tall guys there, and he thought we'd get along. Bitcoin, crypto dudes are usually pretty small. No offense to anyone. Crypto land is short. But some of my best friends are short. Well, not really, but anyway. So we met and we decided to do something together. It's a controversial interview already, yeah. Mm-hmm. So we decided to do a retail point of sale terminal for Bitcoin, just because we wanted to get merchants accepting Bitcoin. We thought that'd be a critical part of the economy. Me and Artur really believed that Bitcoin could help the little guy. That's why we became friends. That's why we started hanging out and said, let's do something together. And Artur was he'd come from a fintech background, and he had his own app, which was like this bikini app, which was doing pretty well. And I was like, oh, this guy is, not only does financing, he's a great developer, but he's also entrepreneurial too. He made his own app. That's awesome. So I recognized right away the same thing in me. So we started, I wined and dined him for a while, and that was really the best thing I ever did, was just, getting him on the team, like becoming friends with that guy. He's an amazing guy. I mean, in every way imaginable, like amazing leader. He'd make a great but our first venture failed as well. It was called Easy Biz, and I was number 11 on the failed list. It didn't work at all. I got kicked out by hot dog vendors who didn't even want to take our service. I tried to give away $108 worth of Bitcoin 4 years ago in Washington Square Park by NYU. No one would take it. It'd be worth like $6,000 right now.
Yeah.
And so it didn't work. So we had to pivot something else. And at this time, I was basically homeless. Our tour was here, and he kind of lost his place to live. And I got him a place with my best friend. He was crashing with him, but at the time, I had no place to live actually, because. Anyway, I didn't tell anyone at the time, but there were whole stretches where I would just kind of wander around at night, in New York, in Manhattan. It's quite the experience, because I have to say, if you are homeless in Manhattan, as long as you have a place to go to a couple times a week and take a shower, you're cool. You can actually dress very well, because these rich people in certain place throw away these expensive clothes from Brooks Brothers. I'm telling you. And these restaurants and Hell's Kitchen, some of them throw away some amazing food. You don't even have to. You can eat so well,
right?
Dress so well, if you're willing to be a little adventurous. Yeah. So. But at the time, it was rough. I didn't tell anyone, but one of our friends, a guy by the name of Max, who trades on Paxful right now, he's a big Paxful trader. He said, "Hey Ray, how are you doing right now? You don't look too good, man." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm all right." He's like, "Hey, you can sell Bitcoin and make 100% profit with these gift cards, particular gift cards, called PayPal My Cash." And I was like, "They're not around anymore." But I was like, "Come on, man. There's no way that would even work." He said, all of a sudden, I wasn't homeless anymore. Scaled it up, got multiple accounts, got friends and family into it, and me and our tour wow, this is amazing, this gift card thing. Let's build a business around this and really make it work. We can get Bitcoin to people who are unbanked like this, and we did it, and that became Paxful. And it was basically technically the same service as local Bitcoins, which is a listing service and an escrow service, but we focused especially on it wasn't local. There were no local trades allowed. It was global Bitcoins, and we focused especially on gift cards, right, and helping the unbanked. And there wasn't much. There was a little bit of traction. We did all right. We weren't homeless anymore, but there wasn't much traction until one day, I remember it was 2 a.m. We were at this WeWork in Soho. A friend of ours let us crash there late at night. Me and our tour sitting there working, and I put my personal phone number on the website, and I never got a call. And then I got a call, and there was this woman, and this poor lady was so desperate. She was yelling at me on the phone.
No.
"Down to my last $13, and I need this Biggie Con." I'm like, "Excuse me, ma'am." Bitcoin. What's the? She needed Bitcoin, and I told her, "Okay, you need Bitcoin. How can you have a bank account? Do you have a credit card? How can you?" She's like, "I don't have a bank account. I don't have, any credit cards." I'm like, "How did you buy stuff online before?" And she's like, "I went to the store, bought a gift card." I'm like, "Okay." So I told her, I asked her, "Okay, are there other gift cards there, like Amazon or at Walmart or Target?" And she was like, "Yes." I'm like, "Okay." So I told her, go down to the store with your last $13, ma'am. Buy, one of the 3 big gift cards, and I'll, come back here and I'll help you out. And the whole time I was searching for one of the guys that could take gift cards in exchange for Bitcoin. I found this young dude from Texas. His name was Tolan77. And this dude, he's like, "Yeah, I can take Amazon, Walmart gift cards, but I'll have to charge a high markup, 70%.
Oh,
I'm like,
70%.
"Okay." This lady didn't care. She really didn't care. She just had her last $13 and she just needed just $2.50 worth of Bitcoin. And no one could help her. This poor lady was so free. The reason she was calling me up, and she cursed the daylights out of me. She just took out all her anger on me.
Oh, no.
There was Man, all her frustration for years. I just took it. I was it was surreal. I was like, wow, like no one ever talked to me. What was wrong with this person? I
Yeah.
felt the desperation in her voice. Like she
Okay.
was in a bad situation. She was going to lose her apartment. She said she was going to get evicted. I heard her kids crying in the background. So I'm like, okay, this is obviously serious.
Okay.
This is like a single mother. So like, she was cursing at me like a sailor, but man, like she was desperate. Like she wasn't acting. This was a desperate person. So I actually walked her through the whole transaction. Actually, like getting her first Bitcoin, and that was a real eye opener because us crypto geeks think, oh, Bitcoin is so easy. But first of all, getting your first Bitcoin for someone that has no bank account was extreme, like almost impossible back then. That's why she was so desperate. She went to 8 different websites, couldn't figure anything out. Like Coinbase is not going to help someone like that. She has no bank account.
Mm-hmm.
So first, I figured out a way to get her Bitcoin, and I saw the whole system from her eyes. So we were able to tailor make the whole system and make it really easy for a normal person. But this was not a techie person. This was like a 37-year-old single mom. She only had a smartphone. She had no computer. She wasn't techie. Very computer literate, and I managed to get her the Bitcoin. Then she had to actually send the Bitcoin out, and then that was another eye opener. You don't know how scary it is, like to use Bitcoin for someone who's never that public key, the Bitcoin address. Like, do you know what a nightmare it is to copy and paste that thing on an Android phone? Like, it's like a nightmare. So I had to walk these poor folks through it. And finally it worked. After 2 hours and a half or something like that, finally she got her first Bitcoin and used it. And she was so thankful. She didn't thank me that day. She actually cursed me out and hung up. But the next day she called me up and thanked me. Yeah, she was. I was like, all right, cool. But the phone calls didn't stop. It was literally an army of people.
Okay.
We can get into that later. Like what perpetuated the need for this? But it was the first time like real people, not techie people, actually needed Bitcoin for an actual utility, for a real purpose, and they were completely unbanked, and they were in the United States. I had no idea these people even existed. Mm-hmm. I was like, wow. Me and Arthur sat down, and I told him, dude, I've been talking to these folks, and we need to redo the whole website, man, because like, especially on mobile, like you had 80% of them were on mobile, and we redid everything. Overnight, Paxful became like the place for the unbanked and like the normal folks to get their Bitcoin.
Okay.
And that's how we became like, we're right now by volume, we're number 2. We're the second biggest peer-to-peer marketplace by volume, like behind local Bitcoins. But if you rank us by number of transactions, we're far and away number 1, because it's people who deal in smaller amounts, right? Mm-hmm. And they deal a lot more often. Like at one point, our Bitcoin wallet was the 3rd busiest wallet, not by volume, but by number of transactions, because they were sending so much, right? Right. So we became really good at figuring out how to help the unbanked and how to help them actually use it for real utilitarian use, not speculation. And now, all of a sudden, like Nigeria just started popping up on our radar. And we were like, whoa, what's going on? Like, why are all these Nigerians on Paxful? And like, what, $12 million in iTunes gift cards from Nigeria to China a week? We're like, what is this? How are these Nigerians getting this Bitcoin? Why do they need it? And what are these Chinese dudes that are selling this iTunes credit for doing with it? Like, what's going on? Mm-hmm. We were confused. we were in shock, and so basically I sat there again, doing customer support. And I still do customer support. I really I do customer support at least 2 to 3 times myself. Mm-hmm. I suppose I want to understand what people are going through and see things from their eyes. And it was amazing what we learned about Nigeria. And we actually went there. We sponsored a couple of conferences. So we just sponsored 2 conferences over there. We're actually building out an incubator over there right now for crypto startups. But when we went there the first time, it was a real eye-opener. We figured out why Nigerians want Bitcoin so badly. And, private wealth preservation, their currency has gone down by 90%. Being able to buy stuff online, because they have huge limits over there, like $100 you can spend max online a month with a debit card, even if you have a bank account. You can't sell stuff outside of the country, but you can't collect euros or dollars without a American corporation and American bank account. And then and that's where you can get a Visa or MasterCard merchant account. So these folks had a lot of issues. Like we saw firsthand, okay, yeah, the unbanked in America, yeah, they have it rough, but if you're unbanked outside of America, it's even worse because you're completely like segregated from the world economy, you
Yeah.
know? And then we were like, wow, okay. So our system, they came to us because our system was really made for them. We just weren't aware of their issues. And now we were. And then we said, okay, let's go all in on Africa. Like we can actually help these folks get an equal footing. We can kind of give them now a global financial passport that they can
Right.
actually use. Like the United Nations should be giving every one of these folks a Bitcoin wallet and teaching them how to use peer-to-peer finance. And at this point, we began to see the bigger picture. And the people of Africa were actually educating us. It wasn't like just Bitcoin and Paxful. It was really peer-to-peer finance. Like these folks were finding ways around all their barriers, whether foreign or domestic, using peer-to-peer finance. So, Bitcoin was the peer-to-peer cash system, and that was the first building block, essentially. The second major building block is this community around Bitcoin, and Artur and I were two of those people in that community. And it's an amazing community because it creates liquidity. People want to, buy Bitcoin because they want to get in on the amazing profits and wealth creation, and people who have Bitcoin want to sell it so they can pay their bills. And the third thing is a peer-to-peer marketplace like Paxful. So those three components are actually the essential building blocks for this peer-to-peer financial revolution that's happening right now. The same thing that Uber did for transportation, Airbnb did for hospitality. Peer-to-peer financial marketplaces like Paxful are doing for finance. We're actually letting other people solve other people's problems. So I'll give you an example. Like say, I remember this one guy in support. He's like, hey, he was a Nigerian dude. He's like, I want to buy an iPhone X. It just came out. And I was like, okay, how can I help you? We don't sell iPhones here. Well, he was like, well, yeah, I want to buy it off eBay or AliExpress, but my bank card, my debit Visa card, his bank gave us limited to $100 a month. And this guy had more than enough money to pay for it, but they limited him. And I was like, all right. So I told him, hey, just load up $1,000 worth of Bitcoin and 1,000 euros worth of Bitcoin. I actually think it was in this case. And he did it. And then I was like, okay, do you have an Alipay account? He's like, yeah. He did have an Alipay account. He bought stuff off AliExpress all the time. It was like the Chinese eBay. Alipay was like the Chinese PayPal. And I told him, okay, sell the Bitcoin and ask the guy to transfer money to your Alipay account. Did it, and then boom, he just bought the iPhone of Alipay Express. Pure peer-to-peer finance. There was a limitation imposed by his bank. He got around it using Bitcoin and peer-to-peer finance. And anyone can use that for anything. If someone wants to pay a bill to someone's bank account in America and they're in Africa, they can just sell their Bitcoin to a dude in America, and they tell him they just give him the bank account to pay the bill to, and he'll pay it. He doesn't care what bank money what bank account he's sending the money to. And that's how peer-to-peer finance works. It's literally a way to it destroys, erases all borders and gets around any financial obstacles or limitations, whether foreign or domestic. It's what the world has been waiting for a long while, especially Africa. And here I am. So that was long, I know. You asked for the whole story, so
I wanted the whole story. So then so Paxful mostly deals, or does it exclusively deal in Bitcoin then?
For now, yes. We were going to add all these other cryptocurrencies. There are other people who trade Bitcoin for other cryptocurrencies on Paxful, like Ethereum and Litecoin. We were going to add a whole token marketplace, and we still might do that very soon in the future. We just have other things that are ahead of the pipeline. But for now, it's just Bitcoin and top 10 cryptocurrencies being traded.
So do you believe that the story that the way that you told, the way that people are using Bitcoin, number one is so different from the narrative that we're hearing most often in the news, like in the Western world, about corporations and banks and things like adopting Bitcoin and regulation. Do you think that that's going to affect the way that the Western world is regulating Bitcoin and adopting it? How is that going to affect the way that unbanked people in Africa use Bitcoin?
That's a great question, and I really don't know. these regulations, and we have open dialogue with all these of the SEC. We've hired good lawyers, and we're taking all that stuff really seriously right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's good. So, these guys are learning right now. They're not out to get us and destroy Bitcoin like people think. They're just learning. They're playing catch up. They don't know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Their main concerns are like anti-money laundering, terrorism, as we're being cool with them, and that's good. So we're being very clear with them about what our mission is. We want to help these unbanked peoples in the world. These guys are buying like $5 of Bitcoin at a time, and they're trying to make businesses out of it. Like these guys, the narrative in the Western world we hear is often skewed. Like we talk about Bitcoin, they're talking about Silk Road, or talking about massive speculation or scams, right? And there's a similarly skewed narrative with Africa. Like when we hear about Africa in the Western world, I mean, all I've ever heard is poverty, disease, and corruption, right? And there are those things in Africa, of course. But what gets me is that they never give you the other side of the story. Like whenever I say about what we're doing with Bitcoin in Africa, people around me say, "Oh, that's bullshit. They're only making less than $1 a day. How can those people?" Yes, there are many people in Africa, many that are making under $1 a day, but there are also many young entrepreneurs that have means, have resources, have ambition, are technically very well educated, and want to build businesses, want to help the world. Those are the people that Bitcoin is going to help, because they can help themselves. And when you help them help themselves, build their own businesses, create their own wealth, and get Bitcoin into the hands of people around them, you're making nodes of prosperity, and they will hire first their families and friends to help them and bring in other people. And that's how it starts. It's grassroots, just like Malcolm X said. Before going out and begging someone for a job outside of your neighborhood, buy the corner store, build it up, take control of local commerce, and help your own people. That's what we're doing. We're building it up naturally like that. We don't have to focus on the starving bushmen in the bushes. Yes, those people do exist. There's other people in Africa. It's not just starving bushmen. There's when we went there, it was amazing. So many bright-eyed, ingenious, entrepreneurial people, very technically, just well-educated and ambitious. It was awesome. I was like, wow, this is amazing. These people have the drive. We just have to give them a few simple tools, and they're going to go. And they've been going. Nigeria is our second biggest market. Next only to the United States. I mean, seriously, it's in Ghana, little Ghana, next to Nigeria, is our third biggest market.
That's crazy.
India is number 4, and then the rest of the top 10 is South Africa, and, Egypt, Morocco, Kenya. So it's amazing. We're going back to Africa in September, and we're having a huge African tour to at least 6 African countries. We'll be sponsoring workshops, conferences, especially at universities, to really educate these young Africans. So there's a name for them that was coined by a fellow at a TED Talk. He calls them the cheetah generation. And it's the cheetahs versus the hippos. The hippos are the old, fat, entrenched, aristocratic class of Africa who don't want things to change. And the cheetahs want things to change, and they're ready things to change. And cryptocurrency and peer-to-peer finance is really the key. It's the key. Because they've never, you have to explain this to people, and not just Africans, but everyone, how powerful peer-to-peer finance really is. This is something that's much bigger than Bitcoin or cryptocurrency in general. Cryptocurrency is just the first building block in this system, right? And then the next one is this community, this network around Bitcoin, and then you have these peer-to-peer marketplaces like Paxful. So this is huge. This peer-to-peer financial revolution, I believe, is the thing that will actually lift up Africa, because Africa has tremendous potential. I mean, half the population growth of the whole world is supposed to come from Africa in the next 20 years. And there's so many bright people there that just are ready to go. There's so many frontier markets there as well that are ripe for industrial development, as long as they have the right financing and leadership. So this is we call it Project Wakanda, and, this is how you really do it. You have this vision of a future, but how is this vision built? It's built on resources and young people who are ambitious and can move things and are ready to put their work into play. You just have to give them some equal footing, and that's how you're going to build Wakanda. That's how it works. It's just basics, foundational stuff, and that's what we're focused on. Rachel, is actually building stuff, not just speculation and Lambo moon parties. Not that there's anything wrong with Lambos, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So do you think that like that Bitcoin specifically is the way forward, or do you think that like, another cryptocurrency or just the concept of cryptocurrency in general is what's gonna make this all work?
It's really peer-to-peer cash. You need a peer-to-peer cash system. Bitcoin is the very peer, it's the strongest network.
Mm.
It has the best claim to immutability in that, it's not like Ripple where they can create, infinite Ripple and make themselves gazillionaires overnight, right?
Right.
Bitcoin is at least not yet. I mean, look how hard people had to work just to change the block size, and they couldn't even do that, right? Like they're not, to change the number of Bitcoin circulation, that would probably come on. It's not going to happen, at least not easily. So, I am a Bitcoin maximalist. I am proud to say that. Blockchain, yeah, that's great, but let's face it, Bitcoin is the killer app, right? This is it. I mean, blockchain is just a slow, inefficient database. Ethereum is like, I mean, you could call it like an app store for the world, but it's really like the world's smallest and slowest hard drive.
Yeah.
Like Bitcoin is what we need to focus on. I really believe that because, I mean, Africans are just now hearing about Bitcoin, and you're going to start talking to them about Ripple and Tron and Cardano and EOS. Man, come on, like. And yeah, I'm focused on the ground, an actual product. Artur and I, we're product-based guys. We talk to real people. We help solve real problems. All this spacey talk is just going to confuse matters, confuse noobs, and that's like kryptonite to this scene. We need
Right.
to keep it focused on the brass tacks.
Mm-hmm. So do you think, like, what do you think about like the Lightning Network and these second layer solutions? Like, do you think that that is going to be effective, or do you think it's needed, or?
I think it's definitely needed, and I think it's already proven itself very effective. I think all these companies are building, look at BitGo. We use BitGo for our hot wallet, and they do a great job. They're kind of like a Lightning Network in themselves early on, in that they allowed other people on the BitGo network to transact instantly, which is really cool. So these solutions are great, and even like internally, like Paxful, the amount of internal Paxful transfers has grown exponentially in 2017. Like people are just staying on Paxful and transacting on Paxful. Like in Nigeria, every Nigerian user, they're not even like going off the blockchain anymore. They're just transacting internally on Paxful. So and that saves them fees. They can go externally if they want to and get an external wallet. And we do encourage people, not to put their life savings on any web wallet, including ours, but to put it on, a wallet that they control the private keys. But even like internally, Paxful is turning into its own little Lightning Network, and there can be other systems like this as well. And there's nothing wrong with that. The main thing is that you should always have the option to go off and be your own wallet as well.
Right.
And that's great. So we get the best of both worlds.
Right. Well, Ray, it's been such a pleasure to talk to you. I love your story. Like, I really actually feel quite inspired right now about Bitcoin, which I haven't felt in a long time. So, thank you for that. Um, is there anything else that you'd like to add or talk about before we close this interview?
Well, one of the things that I'm proudest about is that we, built our first school in Africa last year, the nursery school in Rwanda, which is an awesome place. I encourage everyone to check out Rwanda. You can go there and just get a visa on arrival. There's like no corruption. It's clean. It's safe. Super civilized, and it's an amazing place because the reason we chose to build our first nursery there is because. The government there has just embarked on this amazing program of reconciliation and forgiveness. That massacre, that genocide that happened 20 years ago has been like forgiven and forgotten. People that were killing each other's children 20 years ago, they're living side by side as neighbors now, and there's no revenge, there's none of that. And to me, that was really inspiring us. If they can do that here, then there's real hope for humanity, that we can, all this racism and supremacy and hatred and whatever, tribalism can all be put into the past, and we can just forgive each other and live like human beings. And that's why we built that first school. Actually, in the village where that genocide first started, we just want to kind of set a stake into the ground. Say, hey, this is where Project Wakanda begins, and it's starting small. We just built the first nursery now. We built a whole bunch of wells, and now we're making the water potable with this new filtration system that we're, actually like not just for our wells, but all wells in Africa can use it. It was designed by the University of Texas, and it's it's the beginning. So like, okay, it's potable water, first school. Now we're upgrading their uniforms, giving them lunches, giving a raise to all the teachers. And now we're going to build a primary school. Will be our next big project over there. We have a Paxful scholarship fund, right? We're all calling this the big one. It's really an initiative. We built a couple of wells there as well, and other companies are getting in, like Zap. So it's nice. I encourage anyone to get in on that. We have some really, really good partners that we found around the world, and they all accept Bitcoin, and 100% of anything you give them will go straight to helping the people. Like Youssef of Zamzam Water was our first partner. The guy's amazing. He's a real general. I mean, he's like he comes from his parents were Afghan immigrants who moved to LA, Crenshaw Boulevard, real tough place. And this guy's like a real saint. He's done all this himself. And there's our partners that we're gathering just like him. So he takes Bitcoin, Ethereum, whatever. So we're slowly building out this whole this space within a space. It's like this community we're building is really. We really believe we can make a real change. And we're focusing on fundamentals, and we're just cool people. We really believe we can change things, and we have. So anyone that wants to get in on that and try to help, build with Bitcoin and be a part of that, I can lead you to the right people, and you can donate directly to them, and you will make a difference. They'll give you excellent feedback on how your contribution is actually helping. So it's kind of like SimCity or Civilization. You actually get to help people, and it's awesome. This is what we can do with Bitcoin. This is the good part about Bitcoin, aside from all the Lambos and speculation and all this madness. There's actually real stuff happening. So we should all be really proud of that and give ourselves a pat on the back about that. And the real work is just beginning.
Yeah. Can you say the name of that project one more time?
We just use the hashtag built with Bitcoin.
Built with Bitcoin. We
just want to build things like, and Zamzam Water is the organization that was our first partner, and they're great. So I'll give you links and I'll also introduce you to Youssef himself. You can also donate to him. And there's so many others too that are now getting in on this. Like, they're really seeing the potential of this, and we're going to be doing these charitable products all over Africa and Asia as well, and anywhere else that we can, anywhere else where people aren't getting help, and we can make a real difference that's lasting. And we have good partners there that are, 100% is going to go to helping the actual people. Wherever this is about, all these elements come together, we're going to be there. So that's our mission, is to do what the United Nations and all these other fancy NGOs can't seem to do or care to do. We're gonna be those guys. That's really what wakes me up in the morning. It gets me just like, just running to work. It's like, hey, we can actually make the change that we've all wanted to see for so long. And Bitcoin is just a small part of that, right? It's really the community that's happening. There's some really good people in Bitcoin, folks. Don't give away your Ethereum to any talking chicken heads on Twitter. There's some good people out there still making a real difference, right?
Right. Totally.